ready?
Happy Friday, everyone. It's a divisional round show. I cannot believe we are here already. I feel like this season flew by so quickly. Starting it off just with Money's Munaf. Like, we are doing player props. We are going all in. I've got my Stroud apparel on. I was telling you before we jumped on, I was wearing this the first time you came on. I also wore this when they beat the Colts. So we have to keep the tradition going. I'm going to, people have seen me in the same, I washed the shirt. Don't worry. How's it going though?
I was going to mention that we need to start keeping a record going forward of when you wear the t-shirt and how the Texans do, because we're going to need all the luck this weekend we can get. But yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, we're on to the divisional round. We have 7 games left, including the Super Bowl before the NFL season is over. And last week was pretty good as far as our player props. I know you and I had a lot of conversations offline as well. So hopefully we're going to carry that into the divisional round this weekend. It should be a lot of fun for all the games this weekend.
Yes, fingers crossed. Because I feel like I had a good weekend, but I also could have had a better weekend.
Yeah.
I got a little bit cute, so I tried to be less cute this weekend. Before we jump into these player props, which I'm sure everyone is itching to get into, talking about the Houston Texans. I mean, we got to talk about it. 9.5-point underdogs on the road to Baltimore, a team that they've lost to, which, in fairness, they kind of came back there a little bit in the third quarter. Thoughts, feelings, questions, concerns. Are you touching this spread? I think you did text me that you have taken this plus 9.5. So talk to me.
I think that as the week has kind of transpired, I'm starting to lean towards the Ravens' way. Just because I think this is a tough spot here for the Texans, right? They had back-to-back games where obviously with the Colts, we talked about it, that it was a win and you're in, whether it was going to be the Texans or it was going to be the Colts, right? And Jaguars losing that final week was the cherry on top for us to get the AFC South division. But last week, I mean, I mentioned this on another show that I was with as well, that we kind of felt like that Joe Flacco was going to come back down to earth. And he did, right? He threw 2 pick sixes. And the Texans just absolutely routed the Cleveland Browns. So we talked about how the Browns defense on the road just doesn't travel as well as they have played at home. But now you're asking this Texans team that play in a dome in Houston to go outdoors in Baltimore with a team that's rested. They're the number 1 team in the AFC for a reason. But I think for the key for this Texans team, if they want to have a chance to cover the spread or even win this game, is they're going to have to come out and punch them in the mouth. I think it's something similar to what we saw a few years ago where the Bengals went into Buffalo and they had a 14-0 lead in that first quarter and they didn't look back. So I think that the Texans are going to want to win this game. I think they're going to have to come out in that first quarter, punch them in the mouth a little bit and, go from there. But I hate using the term that we're playing with house money, but we pretty much are, because
I hate it too, but it's true.
It's true, right? Like, no, I certainly did not expect the Texans to beat this far, but I set my expectations really low going into this game. Would I be surprised if the Ravens actually blow our doors off? No, but of course, the fan in me, I want, and the city wants, obviously, the Texans to win and get to the conference championship. But as long as they put in the effort, Stephie, I'm happy with that. I think that going forward, whatever happens in this game, this team is really set up for the future. I mean, with CJ Stroud. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, and I'll say, I think I said it earlier this week. CJ Stroud has played more like a vet than he's played like a rookie. And I think I'm going to call it now. One of the narratives we are going to see during the offseason that I think is going to be complete bullshit is that he's going to hit a sophomore slump. I do not think you're going to see that from CJ Stroud. He's a different type of player. I think that this team, the way that they have absolutely flipped, honestly, the entire franchise around is so impressive. So yes, they're kind of playing with house money. I've been putting out these videos about these random fucking facts going into whatever the weekend has. And someone submitted, I didn't see this one, so I'm doing part 2. Gonna post it after this show. Lamar Jackson is 1-6 against the spread with 12+ days of rest. So, you can find ways to convince yourself to take the 9.5. I'm going to do it. I think that they're going to have to get Lamar to make some mistakes Their run defense is going to be probably what keeps them in this game. We know how much Baltimore, they run the ball more than any other team in the entire league. So they have that going for them. Is there another underdog this weekend, which it's so weird because I feel like the Chiefs is kind of they're not really like I feel dirty saying that they're underdogs.
Obviously, like the odds are indicating they're underdogs, right? But just historically, because the Chiefs have been so good against the Buffalo Bills, it's like, why? Obviously, it is a home game for the Buffalo Bills. I think this is the first time that Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, at least in the Mahomes era, are going on the road outside of the Super Bowl for a playoff game, because usually the run to the Super Bowl goes through Kansas City, but not this year. So can I see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pulling off the upset against the Lions? Maybe, but I think the more conservative and safe one, I think, is definitely the Chiefs. I don't think the Packers really have a chance. So that leaves, I think, the Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I think I'm with you here. All right, let's get into some player props. That's what everyone wants to hear about. Give me your first one that you were looking at this weekend.
Yeah, so this is probably my favorite one of the weekend, and I've talked a lot about this on your show. We've talked about player props during the regular season. It's really just fading the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pass defense. They've been pretty good against a tight end position, so I'm not looking at Sam Laporta. I'm just looking at their number one wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown, to go over 91.5 receiving yards in this game. Like, obviously, this game is in Detroit. But you take a look at what the Buccaneers have allowed to the wide receiver position over the course of the season, and there have been multiple guys that have exceeded 100 receiving yards against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I'll start with my Texans in that game back on week 9. So both Nico Collins and Noah Brown in that game had 100+ receiving yards in that game. So sorry, it was Tank Dell. Tank Dell had 114. Noah Brown had 153 in that game. We had talked about, I think that was a week you mentioned Kyle Phillips against his Buccaneers team. He came out and have a good game. And then let's fast forward. Brandon Ayuk, 5 receptions, 156 yards. Michael Pittman had 10 receptions for 107 yards. And I remember giving out Jonathan Mingo. We laddered that up that week because of Buccaneers. We talked about that, 6 for 69. Drake London, 10 for 172. And then just last week, I'll fast forward here. Devontae Smith, obviously, I know that AJ Brown was out last week, and it was pretty much Devontae Smith, but 8 receptions, 148 yards in that game. And you take a look at what Amon-Ra St. Brown has done over the final 5 weeks of the regular season. Just so in the playoffs last week against the Rams, 7 receptions, 110 yards. We go back 112 against Denver Broncos, 106 against the Minnesota Vikings. He fell 2 yards short against the Dallas Cowboys. And then to end the season, he had 144 against the Minnesota Vikings again. So I think that continues in this game. Weather's not a factor, obviously, being in Detroit in Ford Field. Amon-Ra St. Brown over 91.5 receiving yards. If you want to ladder this up, I think that's a great opportunity as well.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think you see both of these teams fail to run the ball this game. I think it just becomes a pass off between these two quarterbacks. You've got two really shitty secondaries. Turns into kind of what we saw even last game against the Rams, another secondary that is pretty weak. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm with you on that. On the Buccaneers side, if you're looking at Godwin or Evans, who are you leaning towards to go on the over? I think Godwin is like 10 yards, sitting at 10 yards less, like 50, I think it's like 58.5. And then you have Mike Evans, 63.5 the last time I looked at it. Is there one that you prefer over the other?
I think going up against this secondary against the Lions, I think you can't go wrong with either one. I mean, when Mike Evans is healthy, obviously the big sexy name for the Buccaneers receiving group is Mike Evans, just because all the success that he's had in his career, having 1,000-yard receiving yard season in every single one of his years. But I think the pivot may just be Chris Godwin. I know he scored a touchdown last week as well. I think obviously, like you mentioned, it's a little bit cheaper on Chris Godwin. But would you be surprised if both guys had a really big day receiving yards wise? I wouldn't. So we saw what Puka Nacua did last week. I think with the speed that Chris Godwin does have, I can definitely see him getting over this projection here against the Lions defense.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. Last week, we took his longest reception that hit. I'm going to run it back again this week. Going into my first one, and this is going to be a guy that you hear me talk about a lot throughout the show, George Kittle over 52.5 receiving yards, minus 115. You look at since week 7, he's gone over this 8 times. 6 of those were 75 plus yards, including 3 games that were over 115 plus yards. I love in the playoffs to go to guys like George Kittle, guys like Travis Kelce, guys like Stephon Diggs, like these names that have been trusted in the playoffs before. You look at Green Bay too. They've struggled over the middle of the field throughout the entire season. I think that Kittle has a big game here. It's a time of the year to use your staple guys, and George Kittle is one of them. So I like him to go over that 52.5 receiving yards.
Packers, I want to go back. I think during the regular season, they were one of the worst defenses against the tight end position as well. So I was either deciding between George Kittle or CMC. I think I might just get there with both of those guys. I think the Niners are going to have success. It's going to be led by both CMC and George Kittle in this game. So yeah, I definitely can see Kittle having a big game, and I think that he can find the end zone as well if you put something down on his touchdown prop for him to score. Maybe get 2 touchdowns as well.
Just wait till I tell you the dumb fuck bet of the week. Yeah, I think you're onto something. You're kind of hinting to it. But what's your next player prop that you like?
So we talked about the Chiefs, we talked about the Bills game. So let's just get some player prop in that game. I think when we talk about this game, this is going to be a game where I feel like Sean McDermott is coaching for his job. That if they do end up losing this game, I think that he may be fired as a head coach. And I think there's a lot of pressure on Josh Allen to perform. And I think Josh Allen does rise to the occasion here. But this number was a little conservative on his passing touchdowns. It's at 1.5 at around even money. But you take a look in his career, he's played the Chiefs 8 times, and that's been both during the regular season and in the playoffs. He's had at least 2 passing touchdowns in 7 of those 8 career games against the Chiefs, including the playoffs. So I expect whether or not to be as much as the factor as it was last week. Obviously they had to reschedule the game, but he was still able to, have those passing touchdowns last week. I think it'll be a big game for Stephon Diggs, whether he finds the end zone. Dawson Knox, Dalton Kincaid, Shakir for the Bills as well. I know Gabe Davis missed the game last week. I'm not sure. I didn't check the latest injury report if he's going to be playing this game or not, but I think there's more than enough weapons for the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen for him to have at least 2 passing touchdowns, and they're going to need it from Josh Allen. So that was one of the other player props I really did like last week. Josh Allen over 1.5 passing touchdowns.
I like it. Staying in that game too, and I wanted to get your opinion on this. It feels like a trap. Maybe it's not a trap. I do like Dalton Kincaid to go over the 4.5 receptions at plus 125. The Chiefs use a lot of this too high coverage, and we've seen Kincaid thrive in those situations when he's going against teams that do, they use this too high coverage. So I think I like him to go over the 4.5 receptions. Do you like that? Do you hate that?
So I think the one thing about Dalton Kincaid is that he gets the targets, right? Last week he had 6, even with Dawson Knox. He had a couple of drops in there against the Steelers, and maybe that was maybe weather related as well. But even if we go back to the final couple of weeks of the regular season, 7 receptions on 8 targets against the Dolphins, 4 for 7, 7 targets, I think more in particular against the Patriots there as well. So I think for Josh Allen in this offense, like he can't just target Stephon Diggs. He's going to have to spread the ball around. And I think Dalton Kincaid has missed Dawson Knox has missed time where Dalton Kincaid and Josh Allen have kind of been able to build that chemistry and rapport. They matched up earlier this season, right? And he did have 5 receptions in that game, did Dalton Kincaid, on 8 targets as well. It only translated to 21 yards. So I can definitely see this, especially at plus money. I really do like it.
Yeah, the only thing I don't like about Kincaid, and people get mad when I say this, but I don't really care. I tweeted this morning, I wanted to piss people off. When he gets tackled, like more times than not, does he get up so fucking slow? Like it was the worst hit that he's ever felt in his entire, it's the most dramatic thing I've ever seen. I'm going to be completely honest. So it makes me nervous because I feel like at any point it could be like, we don't see him for the rest of the game because of the way he just kind of, I mean, he ends up fine. It's just, I don't know what it is. It annoys the shit out of me. I'm not going to lie to you. So I like it. I think that, this over the 4.5 is a good call here for, going against at least the Chiefs. I see Easy in the chat talking about the thing is with Knox too. He is just the red zone guy. And I made that mistake last week when I took the over 1.5 receptions. I had him for an anytime touchdown, which was nice. But again, he's really just getting like a catch and a touchdown. That's it. Like that's what you expect out of Knox. So I like Kincaid here. What else are you looking at for the props here?
So let's go to that game between the Niners and the Packers. Aaron Jones to go under on his rushing yards. And I think this kind of game script wise, right? That if the 49ers get out to a 2-possession lead, that's not going to be good, obviously, for the Green Bay Packers, which is only going to make them throw the football. In this game with Jordan Love, this number has come down. I did see that 70.5. Now we see it all the way down to 67.5, 66.5 in some spots. So the market is agreeing with it. But I know you had a great game last week against Dallas, but who doesn't? He's had a great career game log against the Dallas Cowboys. But I think going up against the 49ers, who have been one of the better defenses in the entire league this season, I think that those guys are going to be ready to play. I think that Aaron Jones, just game script wise, I don't think he's going to get enough attempts for him to get over this number of 67.5 right now. I'll give it that as current numbers. So I'll look at the under for Aaron Jones, 67.5 rushing yards.
Yeah, staying in that game too. I just think we're going to see the Packers playing from behind in this game. And for that reason, it's really hard to tell what they're going to do. It's probably going to be a lot of like 3 wide receiver sets. I'm going back to Dontavian Wicks. I rode with him the entire season. I'm taking that over 17.5 longest reception minus 110. This number was a little bit higher last week when I gave it out. It did hit. He's gone over 9 straight games. And this isn't like, oh, the trend's going to come to an end. I just think when he is not heavily involved, he's still getting 1 long shot downfield. And you're seeing that. Even when he only has 2 targets, one of them is 30 yards downfield. So I think he's involved, especially with the Packers playing from behind. I really like him to go over this 17.5 longest reception here. Targeted at least 4 times in 8 of the last 10, 3 straight games with at least 1 touchdown. I'm not going to get there with the touchdown here because I think you probably see Jaden Reed involved again. I couldn't get there with any of his props, but as far as Green Bay went, this is where I landed, and it was to go Dontavian Wicks over 17.5 longest reception.
It's sneaky. I mean, Jordan Love, he's been spreading it around. We saw it as they kind of winded down the season and they were fighting for their playoff lives. And again, we saw it last week as well against the Dallas Cowboys. So they're going to need all their receivers to step up. It can't be just one guy. That's kind of been the story for them over the past couple of weeks. So yeah, he's definitely going to spread the football around. Like you mentioned, right? If they are playing from behind by multiple possessions, that Jordan Love is going to have to throw the football here. So they have to be big chunk plays as well. So yeah, I can definitely get behind that. I'll throw out one more. I think I got to go a little bit square here. Travis Kelce is still at 5.5 receptions. Last week, it was at 5.5. I took the over on it as well. I'm going to go right back to it. I mean, we see when we get into the playoffs and when it's crunch time, when it matters the most, historically, we've seen those quarterbacks go to guys that they trust the most, right? We talk about the Tom Brady's of the world going to Rob Gronkowski. You could throw Julian Edelman into that conversation as well. When we talk about Patrick Mahomes, like Travis Kelce is his guy. And I think last week against the Dolphins, we saw it, right? 7 receptions on 10 targets. And in 2 playoff career games versus the Bills for Travis Kelce, he's at 6 receptions and he's at 8 receptions against the Buffalo Bills in that span. So I think it'll be the same story this week as well. I'm sorry, he had 8 receptions and 13 receptions 2 years ago. So definitely got over that number of 5.5. It is at minus 140, minus 135 at some books, but I'm willing to lay the big here. And I think the targets are going to be there for Travis Kelce. I think he's a tough matchup for any team. I think that a lot of teams know that. But when you talk about getting down to when it matters the most, I think Patrick Mahomes is going to go back to his guy. So I'll take Travis Kelce over 5.5 receptions.
Why I'm smirking is all I hear is that you're going to love the quad Ds this week. Before I give those out, I'm going to give one more prop out.
Okay.
See what you think here. I think I did text you this actually, but Zay Flowers, and I haven't looked. I can imagine this has moved since we heard the no Mark Andrews news. Zay Flowers to go over 47.5 receiving yards, minus 114. most targeted receiver on the Ravens. You know, maybe we see something different if Andrews doesn't get hurt, but he's gone over this three of the last 4 games played. Houston's run D, again, like I will talk about in a little bit when we get to the quad Ds, has been quietly very, very good. And, you know, said earlier, Baltimore does run the ball more than any team in the league at nearly like 60%. It's like 58 point something. They're going to have to pass the ball against this team. Lamar is going to have to find a way to get the ball through the air a little bit more than he has this season. And Flowers is really good against zone. And unfortunately, your Houston Texans do play a lot of zone coverage. So I'd like Zay Flowers to go over this 47.5. Where are you at with that? Do you like that though?
5 of 8 games at home. He went over this number. I do like it. I think that's a great point, especially what you brought up, that the Texans do play zone. He's able to find those holes in the zone defense and rack up yards that way. First game in week 1 with these two teams played against each other, he had 9 receptions, 10 targets, 78 receiving yards. So if there's going to be any success for the Baltimore Ravens through the air, their rookie is going to have to step up in Zay Flowers. So I think I might get with, I'm going to get this number with you as well on the number for Zay Flowers. It's up to 49.5, obviously, like you mentioned with the Mark Andrews news, but he has to get 50 plus here if the Ravens are going to have any success. Yep.
Absolutely. Another, if you want to look at Lamar over his passing, I like that as well. But we'll talk about the quad Ds. I'll rip through them here, see what you think.
Okay.
First is the dad pick. This is the Hall of Fame gaming pick of the week. We're going to go with Taylor Swift's daddy, Kelce, to go over 60.5 receiving yards, -117. The Bills D is banged up. Again, look at this middle of the field. You're going to see Kelce find success. You go back to your guys in the playoffs. It's going to piss the fantasy bros off, but he's going to have another big game. You look at last week, 10 targets, 7 receptions, 71 yards. Longest reception was 22 yards. And he had his highest target share versus Miami since week 7. So I love Travis Kelce to go over the 60.5 receiving yards. Dud. We're going to go Edwards, Gus Bus. He might find the end zone. That's fine. But I like him to go under the 52.5, -115. Again, Texans run D, quietly fantastic. Almost picked Rachaad White there, but a little bit nervous for some reason with that. Just stayed away. That was more of a gut call there. Okay. And then dog, we're going to go Tampa Bay +6.5. I think it's too many points. I think these teams match up a little bit better than people realize. And then we've got dumb fuck bet. We're doing another parlay.
Okay.
Over 11-1, it's +1145, 10 to win 124. We've got, we're just going to keep things tight this weekend, all right? We're going to go Kelce, 70 plus receiving yards. Kittle, 60 plus receiving yards. Kittle, anytime touchdown. Kelce, anytime touchdown. Very doable, I think, this week. Love the matchups for him. Any concerns about the quad Ds before I let you get out of here?
No, I think the only one may be George Kittle on the yardage.
Okay.
And like I mentioned earlier, that I do think that he does find the end zone, but Kittle has been a guy, especially when Brock Purdy has taken over as the quarterback, that he's kind of been the guy. I think this goes back to last season when Brock Purdy took over, that Kittle's like yardage just absolutely just took off and he was able to find the end zone as well. But I think that would be my only concern. I mean, I mentioned Kelce. I think that receptions go over. If his receptions are getting over, the yardage is going to get over there as well. And again, he's been reliable in the end zone as well. I was going to ask you this, that I'm starting to see some conflicting things on the Twitterverse about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. That one is saying that they may get engaged this summer. One is saying they are having some issues. Which way are you leaning about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce here?
I don't foresee them getting engaged. I think that would be so aggressive. Like, I think it'd be a little bit too much here. Like, what are we doing? I think it's a little weird that, what did I tweeted out or posted out, whatever it is on X, Twitter these days. Why is that recipe site tweeting out news reports about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift? Like, what are we doing here? Delish.com, I think it was. Like, it's getting out of control. I mean, God damn it. Like, someone replied to the tweet too, you go to find a recipe and they give you everything but the recipe, right? And that's quite literally it. So I think it's interesting. I think, my theory always was when Taylor turned down doing the Super Bowl because she was asked to do the Super Bowl, they were dating at that point. So I think she said no because if Kelce were to go to the Super Bowl, she didn't want to take the attention off of him. That's been my conspiracy theory.
I think they have been also dating for a while because
a long time. I think since at least June.
Like, wouldn't you say that would be too soon for her to meet his mom?
I mean, look at them. They're not cozied up in the booth. That first game, that's not a hard launch. That's just like we've been dating for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
yeah, I think so. I'm with you on that. But yeah, let's see what happens in the summer.
We'll
but
see.
yeah, hopefully we can put more importantly gets to the window this week and catch some more tickets. But
yeah, absolutely. Any last props before I let you get out of here?
I gotta back my Texans somehow. So I think I just got to go back to old reliable Nico Collins, man. I think that if we're gonna have success on the offensive side, like it's starting an inning with Nico Collins. So if you want to take his receptions over or take his yardage over, longest reception, whatever the case might be, it's gonna have to be Nico Collins. And CJ Stroud has been finding his guy. So hopefully it is a big Nico Collins weekend. Some way, somehow, maybe we pull it off, or it's either we pull it off, Stephie, or we get our doors blown off. There's no in between, I think. So, but yeah, best of luck this weekend, and I will talk to you. I'll talk to you later.
Very soon. All right, let's win some monies this weekend. I appreciate you. See you next week. Let's go, Houston.
All right. Bye.
See ya. And now, producer Ryan with his very pretty shirt. Doesn't producer Ryan look nice, everyone? For those that are watching and not listening, I can't hear you. Here we go. Can we hear Ryan?
I was muted. I was muted.
Woo! How's it going?
I don't know why. That was weird. Okay. And I got to get my mic too. Oh, there we go. How's that? How am I sound?
You sound and look incredible.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I want to bring something up to you really quick because I have a bone to pick and I want to hear your opinion on it. So before we get into
me?
No, not with you. I just shook my entire jaw. Not a bone to pick with you. My bone to pick is there's a lot of, and I see Easy in the chat who is a Lions fan, so I'm sure he'll have some things to say about this. So Kelly Stafford is making I think a bigger deal out of this. They booed my children, blah, 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 blah. I think people are not realizing they probably were not booing her children. I think they were booing her. And I think that this is you're with your children, but I have a hard time believing, considering Kelly is the one with the podcast and, she was complaining about not being sweet and all this stuff. I think they were booing Kelly. I don't think we're booing children.
For me, I hope they were booing the children. That just sounds so much more hardcore to boo the children. I mean, get them, Lions fans, get them. No, but you're right. I don't think they were booing the children.
I mean, so dramatic. And I thought that this would, die off before this weekend, but I'm still seeing reports on it. And it's let's just use some critical thinking here. I think that they were booing Kelly. I don't think it had to do with the kids.
Yeah, no, let's boo Kelly. Boo her right now. Don't worry about it. I mean, I'm glad that the Lions didn't, roll out the red carpet for just because Stafford was their guy back then. I'm glad. He left.
He's gone.
Don't root for him still. You've got a great team in your own right now. Root for him when your team sucks, sure. Okay, if your team sucks and your guy wins somewhere else, root for him still. But man, don't keep rooting for him when your team is good.
I know. I think my favorite moment, and I don't know if you saw this, but when Campbell was giving the game balls away, and he goes, "This is all I'm going to say. You're good enough for fucking Detroit, Goff." And then the ball. Dude, I'm done. I fucking love that. That's enough to get you. If you're doing Dry January, drink to that because that's fucking awesome. That was all you need to say. I think people do not realize, and I've advocated for him for years. I think Goff is a better quarterback than people realize. He's been to a Super Bowl too. So give him his flowers a little bit here, especially if they win this game. But let's talk about some questions and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah, let's talk about some questions. All right, we got some questions for today. Our man Darius, who we know is here, always here, asking who's the biggest upset you're going with this weekend. You already talked a little bit about this as your favorite your favorite dog and your quad Ds, but talk a little bit more. Anybody that can win outright, maybe. I know you said that you thought the spread was too.
It is a very weak. This is very weak and kind of pathetic because usually I'm a little bit spicier in this, but really Kansas City being dogs, I think is just asking for trouble. I think the way that everyone put a lot of stock into the Buffalo Bills, that's going to be probably the biggest letdown is when this Bills team doesn't end up moving on. I said on the show on Wednesday with Jason, I think if the Bills move on, they go to the Super Bowl. I think Kansas City is losing in the next round if they do move on. So yeah. I think that is the biggest upset just because people put so much stock into the Buffalo Bills. And I want the Bills to go. Like, I don't really give a shit to see. I'm sick of seeing the same teams. You know, they're giving Patriots vibes. I'd rather see, you know, something else. Let's mix it up. Josh Allen deserves it. But, you know, even Munaf was talking about it. McDermott's probably playing for his job here. So we'll see how it goes. I think that's my biggest upset because it's hard to make a call on any of the other teams because you see these underdogs not make it past this next round here. So,
yeah. Totally. All right. Well, not the biggest underdog, not that exciting, but you're right. That's the
not
one that's
sexy,
most likely
not a sexy option. No.
This is from Stoned Hacker. Why am I not getting every underdog this weekend? I don't totally understand that question, but we didn't have a lot of questions.
We're assuming he means betting, and you could totally do it. I get down with it. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to be completely honest. And I kind of said it. Jason shut it down. I wouldn't be surprised if one of Green Bay or the Texans win. I think because of the way this season has gone too. And we talked about
if you had to pick one, though, if you had to pick one of those two, whose narrative feels like it's ripe for upsetting one of these top teams?
The way this season has gone. And I know I have the shirt on, so don't look. But I think the Texans, I really fucking do. Yeah. I think they're more well-rounded. They're more well-rounded than Green Bay. Like Green Bay with Barry's defense is just not like there's not a lot to like there against a team like the 49ers. And I think Baltimore you can catch them off guard.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. I love it. That's a spicy pick right there. There you go. Or a spicy take.
I'm like a little like fake homer. I'm not like a full homer, but a little bit.
All right. This question is really going outside the box. We've never had a question like this, but I had to include it.
Okay.
Will I ever find happiness? That's from Trilly Wonka. Will Trilly Wonka at S State 11 ever find happiness?
I feel like you need to fix the way we speak. Like that's a new thing this year too for me. Like let's a little bit more positive talk. All right. You will find happiness.
Wonka.
You got to put it out to the universe. All right. A little bit of positive talk here. A little bit more. Like we can't be asking questions like this. Say you already found happiness. Whatever's going on, it'll get better. Unless you're a giant.
So what should the question Trilly Wonka be asking? Rephrase it.
I need to know what team he's a fan of because I think there is a way that you don't ever find happiness. Like,
oh no, that took a turn. You were so positive, talking about just the right verbiage, and now you're like, well, it depends if he's a bad team. Then certain teams he's not going to find happiness.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah. If you're a Cowboys fan, I don't know, you might keep losing in the playoffs.
That's all we got for today. Anything else?
Yeah. No, that's going to be it. We'll put up our sleeper slip on my Twitter. And then, let's get out of here. Everyone enjoy their Friday. Let's win some freaking monies.
Watch him make it, break it.